Hi, let's see how to get started blocking out your animation to a piece of sound in Maya. I'm starting with an empty scene, and the first thing I'll do is go and bring in my character file. So to bring in a character file, the best way to do it is to go and create a reference. And here I have my character. Okay, there he is. Next thing, I'm going to go and bring in my sound file. So I go File, Import, and under File Import, you have Audio as an option. So here a WAV file is showing up. As soon as I import it, you can see the waveform on the timeline. If I right click on the timeline and go to Sound, I can turn it off or turn it back to my sound. And if I move my work to a different computer or a different folder, and if Maya cannot find the sound file, I can right click, go into the options of the sound, and browse for the file again. So we have the character in our scene, we have the sound file. It's important to know that if you move your work to any other computer or you reorganize your folders, you need to move your scene file, your character file that you referenced, and your sound file all together. They all need to be on the same computer, preferably in the same folder, so you can move your work easily from one computer to the other and move all these files with you. Now, before I start blocking, one thing I need to do is make sure that my keyframes will not have any in-betweens. In other words, when I start blocking, I want my character's body to simply pop from one pose to the other without going through any in-betweens. The way to do that is to go into the preferences of Maya and then go to animation preferences and make sure that your default out tangent is set to stepped. Stepped keys are keys that have no in-betweens. They simply hold the pose, and then when the next keyframe arrives, they just step to the next value without any kind of transition in between. So I save my preferences, save my file, and let me show you what the stepped keys do. So for example, I have the character's hip. I'm going to key the character's hip at frame 1, move it down here at frame 5, and then up there at frame 7. Okay? So frame 1, frame 5, and frame 7. Now if I play through this animation, you will see that he just pops from pose to pose and has no in-betweens. Let me show you what it looks like in the graph editor. So in the graph editor, this is what stepped keys look like. There are no transitions. You go from one pose, hold that pose. When the next keyframe comes, you simply pop to the new values, the new positions, and then hold that. And then when the next keyframe comes, you simply pop. So Maya does this when we set our default out tangents to stepped, as I had shown you in the preferences. The advantage of doing this for your blocking is that you can focus on the storytelling poses, you can focus on the main poses without getting distracted by bad in-betweens, which the software usually delivers. So you can stay focused on telling the story, and then in the next stage when we get to cleanup, that is when we start dealing with the in-betweens. Let me show you the finished blocking for this scene. Now ignore the black stuff, that's not how it's going to show up in the render, it's just how it shows up for me in Maya. But watch.
Richard, who's your favorite little rascal? Alfalfa? Or is it Spanky? Sinner.
So as you can see, the character steps through his poses, just pops from pose to pose. And let me show you what the graph editor looks like. So every pose is simply held till the next pose arrives in time. So this is how you get started and proceed with your blocking. Just focus on the keyframes, just telling the story, and that'll be your first pass. Remember that when your project consists of your Maya scene file, your character file, and your audio file, and they all need to go together if you move your work. So have fun blocking.